My name is Ariana Cole, and I'm 30 years old. I'm 5 feet 6 inches, with dark brown hair I usually tie back in a low bun, not because I like it that way, but because I've spent most of my life doing work that never gave me time to care about appearances. I've always been the reliable one in my family, the one who doesn't complain, the one who adjusts, the one who fixes things when everything else falls apart. I grew up in a middle-class household in a small town. My father, Daniel Cole, a strict and practical man who runs a local hardware supply business. My mother, Marissa Cole, has always been quieter, someone who avoids conflict but never really challenges my father's decisions either. And then there's my younger sister, Vanessa Cole. Vanessa is everything I'm not: confident, expressive, always well-dressed, and somehow always the center of attention. She has light brown hair, a polished appearance, and a way of speaking that makes people instantly take her side. She never held a steady job for long, but somehow, she never had to. Because in our house, Vanessa was always the priority. I, on the other hand, worked. I handled my father's business accounts without pay. I managed the paperwork, organized deliveries, and even dealt with clients when things went wrong. At the same time, I was completing online certifications, trying to build a career quietly, without asking anyone for support. Because I already knew the answer. 7 years ago, after countless rejections and late nights, I finally got something that felt real: a final interview for an operations coordinator position at a growing company in the city. It wasn't just a job. It was a way out. A way to finally build something that belonged to me. I prepared for weeks. But what I didn't prepare for was that the biggest obstacle wouldn't be the interview. It would be my own family. The morning of my interview started earlier than usual. I woke up at 5:30 a.m., long before the rest of the house, just to have a moment of quiet. I stood in front of the mirror a little longer than necessary, adjusting the only formal outfit I owned, a navy blazer I had saved up for, paired with a simple white shirt. It wasn't expensive, but it was the best I had, and for once, I felt like it was enough. I packed my folder carefully. Printed resume, certifications, notes, everything was organized down to the smallest detail. I had already planned my route twice, checked transportation timing, and even set backup options in case something went wrong. I wasn't leaving anything to chance. Or at least, that's what I thought. When I stepped into the kitchen, the lights were already on. My mother was there, quietly preparing tea. That alone felt unusual. She glanced at me, then at the clock, but didn't say anything at first. My father was sitting at the table, scrolling through his phone, his expression unreadable. Something felt off. "Why are you up this early?" my mother finally asked, her tone neutral, but not curious. I paused for a second. "I told you, my final interview is today." My father didn't look up. Instead, he said something that immediately unsettled me. We'll see about that." It wasn't loud. It wasn't aggressive. But it didn't sound like a joke either. I stopped in the middle of the kitchen, holding my folder a little tighter. "What do you mean, we'll see?" I asked carefully, trying to keep my voice steady. My father finally looked up from his phone. His expression wasn't angry, but it wasn't warm either. It was the kind of calm that usually meant he had already decided something without telling anyone. "You've been running around chasing jobs for years," he said. "Today isn't going to change anything." My mother placed the teacup down softly, like she was trying not to make noise at all. That silence from her hurt more than his words. "I prepared for this," I replied. "This is the final interview. If I miss it, I won't get another chance like this easily." My father leaned back in his chair. "There are more important things today." That's when I noticed it. His tone wasn't suggesting. It was deciding. Before I could ask what he meant, my phone buzzed on the counter. A reminder popped up: interview in 2 hours. I reached for it, but my mother suddenly spoke. "Vanessa's brunch is today," she said quietly, still not looking at me. And in that moment, something inside me tightened. Because I already understood what was coming next, and it wasn't a coincidence. I stared at my mother for a second, waiting for her to laugh or correct herself. She didn't. Instead, she continued calmly, as if she was talking about the weather. Your sister has been planning this brunch for weeks. The guests are important. Your father already promised you'd help. I felt my grip on the folder tighten until my fingers hurt. Help? I repeated slowly. I have my final interview today. I've told you both multiple times. My father stood up from the table now, finally fully engaged in the conversation. You can go another time, he said. This brunch can't be rescheduled. These people are coming from the city. It reflects on this family. I let out a short breath, almost disbelieving what I was hearing. So my interview doesn't reflect on this family? My mother avoided my eyes. That silence answered everything more honestly than words ever could. My phone buzzed again. A message from the company. Reminder, final interview begins at 10 a.m. Please arrive 15 minutes early. I showed it to them immediately. I can't miss this. This is my future. For the first time, my father's expression hardened. Your future doesn't get decided in one morning, he said firmly. This brunch is not optional. You will stay. And just like that, it wasn't a discussion anymore. It was an order. I looked around the kitchen, at my mother's lowered gaze, my father's fixed stance, the clock ticking louder than it should have been. And I realized something painful. They weren't asking me to choose. They were choosing for me. I took a step toward the hallway, instinctively moving to leave. I stood there for a moment, still holding my folder like it could somehow protect me from what was happening. The clock on the wall kept moving forward, completely unaffected by my panic. I can still make it if I leave now, I said quickly. If you just give me the keys, I can take a rickshaw or anything. My father shook his head once. Not even considering it. No, he said. You're staying here. That single word hit harder than shouting would have. That's when my father moved first. Not fast. Not dramatic. Just deliberate. He reached out and took my car keys from the hook near the door. I'll need those, he said calmly, sliding them into his pocket. I froze. What are you doing? My mother finally looked at me, and there was something uneasy in her eyes, but she still didn't stop him. You're being emotional right now, she said softly. Just sit down. Eat something. You'll miss nothing important. Nothing important? My voice cracked slightly. It's my final interview. I've worked years for this. My father stepped closer, lowering his voice like he was explaining something obvious to a child. You think one job will change everything, he said. But family responsibilities come first. Before I could respond, he nodded toward the front door. And I heard the lock click. My stomach dropped. I walked quickly to the door and tried it. Locked. I turned back sharply. You locked me in? My father didn't answer immediately. He just adjusted his sleeves. After the brunch, he said, we'll talk about your job situation. That's when I realized. This wasn't about brunch anymore. It was about control. I looked at my mother again, hoping, just for a second, that she would say something different. Something human. Something that would make sense. Instead, she spoke quietly. Vanessa needs you here today. Please don't make this harder. Harder? My chest tightened. So my interview doesn't matter, but her brunch does? I asked. My mother hesitated, then looked away again. That silence was becoming unbearable. I walked back to the counter and picked up my phone with shaking hands. I opened the company message again, reading it like it might change. Final interview begins at 10 a.m. The time was now 8:47. I had less than an hour and 15 minutes. I'll miss it, I whispered, almost to myself. My father heard me. You'll survive it, he replied. but in that moment, it didn't feel like survival. It felt like something was being taken from me that I could never get back. The sound of heels clicked down the hallway before I even saw her. Vanessa. She walked into the kitchen like she owned the space, holding her phone in one hand and adjusting her earrings with the other. She looked perfectly prepared, hair styled, makeup done, dressed in a soft pastel outfit that screamed effort without struggle. "Morning," she said lightly, then paused when she saw my face. That pause lasted only a second. "What's wrong with her?" she asked, glancing at my father. My father's tone softened immediately. "She's being difficult about the interview again." I almost laughed at that word. Difficult. Vanessa sighed like this was an inconvenience for her too. "Seriously? Today?" She turned to me now, eyes scanning me like I was already a problem. "You know the brunch starts at 11, right? People are coming specifically to meet Dad's business contacts too. We need everything perfect." I stared at her. "You're aware I have a final interview," I said slowly. "A career-changing opportunity." Vanessa shrugged slightly. "You always have interviews," she replied. "This is just one of them." That sentence landed worse than anything my father had said. Because she didn't even see it as important enough to argue about. My mother gently placed a plate on the table like nothing was happening. And my father simply said, "This is settled." But for me, nothing was settled. Everything was breaking. I looked around the kitchen, slowly, like I was seeing it for the first time. My father standing near the doorway like a guard. My mother moving plates around like silence could fix reality. Vanessa scrolling on her phone, already bored of the conversation. 3 people. No one on my side. "I'm not asking for permission," I said finally, my voice quieter but steadier than before. "I'm telling you I'm leaving." My father's expression changed instantly. Not anger. Control tightening. "You are not leaving," he repeated. Vanessa sighed. "Oh my God, just skip it. It's not like jobs disappear in one day." I turned to her sharply. "You've never even kept a job long enough to understand what this means." Her face flickered for a second, just a second, but she recovered fast. "See," she said, looking at my parents. "This is why she can't be trusted with responsibilities. She always creates drama." That word again. Drama. I felt something inside me shift, not break, but harden. My phone buzzed in my hand. A reminder again. 9:10 a.m. Time was moving. My life was moving. Without me. I walked toward the door again, slower this time. My father stepped in front of it immediately. And that's when I understood clearly. I wasn't late because of traffic. I was late because I was being held still. I stopped just a few steps away from my father. The space between us felt smaller than it should have, like the walls were closing in, not physically, but emotionally. "Move," I said quietly. My father didn't. Instead, he folded his arms. "Sit down, Ariana. You're not going anywhere like this." That sentence wasn't loud, but it was final. I could feel my heartbeat in my throat now. The clock ticking in the background felt louder than any voice in the room. "I've worked for this," I said again, slower, trying to make them understand. "Do you realize what this interview means? I've been shortlisted from hundreds of candidates." Vanessa rolled her eyes slightly. "You act like you're the only person who has pressure in life." That hit differently. Because she wasn't even trying to hurt me. She genuinely believed it. My mother finally spoke again, softer this time. "Just eat something, calm down. After the brunch, your father will talk to you about better opportunities." Better opportunities. Like this wasn't already the best chance I had ever earned. I looked at all 3 of them again. And I realized something painful but clear. They didn't see my future as mine. They saw it as something that could always be postponed. My phone lit up again. 9:28 a.m. And I knew I was running out of time, not just for the interview, but for myself. My hands were shaking now, not from fear exactly, but from the pressure building inside me like it had nowhere left to go. I took a slow breath and tried again, softer this time. "Please," I said. "Just let me go. I'll do everything you want later. I'll help with the brunch. I'll do whatever you need. But I can't miss this interview." For a moment, there was silence. Even Vanessa stopped scrolling. Even my father didn't speak immediately. I thought, just for a second, that maybe something was changing. Then my father exhaled sharply. "No," he said again. That single word crushed whatever hope had started to rise. My chest tightened. "Why are you doing this to me?" My mother looked uncomfortable now, shifting slightly in her chair. "It's not personal," she said quietly. "It's just bad timing." Bad timing. As if my entire future was just an inconvenience on someone else's schedule. I laughed once, but it wasn't real. Bad timing, for me. I glanced at the door again. Still locked. Still controlled. Still unreachable. My phone buzzed again. 9:41 a.m. Less than 20 minutes. And for the first time, I stopped asking permission in my mind. I started planning something else. Something changed inside me after that moment. It wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It was quiet, like a door closing in my mind. I lowered my phone slightly and looked at the lock on the front door again. Not as a barrier, but as a problem. "I'm going," I said. My voice was calm now. Different. My father noticed immediately. His eyes narrowed slightly, as if he could sense the shift. "You're not," he repeated. Vanessa frowned. "Why are you making this such a big deal? Just sit down." But I didn't look at her anymore. I was watching my father. Because I realized something simple but important. Arguing wasn't going to open that door. And asking wasn't going to either. I took one step back. Then another. My mother stood up slightly. "Ariana, don't do anything reckless." Reckless. That word again. Everything I wanted was now being labeled as something wrong. My phone screen lit up again. 9:47 a.m. Time was almost gone. And in that moment, I made a decision I had never made in my life before. I stopped trying to convince them. And started focusing only on getting out. I moved toward the side hallway instead of the front door. If the main exit was blocked, there was still the kitchen back door, older, less used, sometimes stiff but never locked from inside. My father noticed immediately. "Stop," he said sharply. But I didn't. My steps were faster now, controlled, purposeful. Behind me, I heard Vanessa's voice rise slightly. "Dad, she's actually going to do something." I didn't wait to hear the rest. I pushed into the kitchen area and reached for the back door handle. It turned. My heart jumped. For a split second, I thought I had it. Then I felt it, pressure behind the door. It didn't open. Locked from the outside too. A cold wave ran through me. I stepped back, staring at it like it had betrayed me personally. "No," I whispered. My father appeared in the hallway behind me, calm again. Too calm. "You're not leaving through any door today," he said. My mother stood further back now, hands clasped tightly, like she was praying for the situation to end on its own. Vanessa leaned against the wall, watching me like this was all just an uncomfortable interruption in her day. And I realized something even worse than being locked in. They had prepared for this. I stood still in front of the back door, my hand still resting on the handle even though I already knew it was useless now. That realization settled in slowly. This wasn't a sudden decision from them. This had structure. Planning. Intention. My father walked a few steps closer, his tone almost patient, like he was explaining something reasonable. "I knew you would try this," he said. My stomach tightened. You knew? He nodded once. That's why everything is arranged. My eyes flicked between him and the door again. Arranged for what? Vanessa let out a small laugh, like I was slow to understand. For you to stay, she said simply. Obviously. My mother didn't speak, but her silence now felt heavier than before. Not confused anymore, complicit. I felt something shift inside me again, colder this time. You planned to stop me from going, I said slowly. My father didn't deny it. Instead, he checked the time on the wall clock. 9:52, he said. You would have already been on your way. Now it's settled. Settled. That word again. Like my life was something that could be finalized without my permission. I stepped back from the door completely now. Not defeated. Just recalculating. The kitchen suddenly felt different. Not physically, nothing had changed, but the space between us felt tighter, like the air itself had become heavier. I turned slowly to face them again. All of you agreed to this? I asked. My voice wasn't shaking anymore. It was steady in a way that made even Vanessa stop smirking for a second. My father crossed his arms. We agreed you wouldn't disrupt an important day for this family. I nodded slowly, as if absorbing the information. And my interview? I asked. Is that just a disruption? My mother looked down immediately, like the floor was suddenly more interesting than me. Vanessa shrugged. It's not like it's the end of the world. That phrase again. Not the end of the world. But it felt like the end of mine. I walked a few steps back into the center of the room so I could see all of them clearly at once. For years, I had stood slightly to the side in this house. Adjusting. Waiting. Fitting into whatever space they allowed me. But now there was nowhere to fit. My phone vibrated again. 9:55 a.m. 5 minutes. And I realized something simple but terrifying. Even if I left now, I might already be too late. But staying meant something worse. It meant accepting this. I stared at the clock again. 9:56 a.m. The numbers didn't feel real anymore. They felt like they were mocking me, moving forward while I stood still. My father noticed my gaze and spoke again, softer this time, as if trying to sound reasonable. This is temporary, he said. You'll get another opportunity. But today is not negotiable. Temporary. That word almost made me laugh again, but I didn't. Because I understood something now. Nothing in this room was temporary except my chances. I turned slightly toward Vanessa. You know what this interview was? I asked her. She raised an eyebrow. A job interview? No, I said quietly. It was the first time I wasn't going to be dependent on this house. That made her expression shift just a little. Not guilt. Discomfort. My mother finally looked at me again. We've always supported you. I nodded slowly. By controlling me? I asked. Silence. That silence answered more honestly than any defense. My phone buzzed again. 9:58 a.m. 2 minutes. And in that moment, I felt something settle inside me, not panic, not hope. Clarity. I wasn't going to win this argument. And I wasn't going to convince them. So the only question left was what I was willing to lose to stop losing myself. 9:59 a.m. The number on my phone felt like a final warning, not a reminder. My breathing slowed without me forcing it. Strange how the body reacts when the mind finally stops waiting for permission. My father was still standing near the doorway, watching me closely now. My mother had started folding and unfolding her hands, nervous, but still not moving toward me. Vanessa leaned against the wall like nothing in her world was shifting at all. Just sit down, my father said again, quieter. It's over. That word landed differently this time. Over. I looked at him. No, I said. Not loud. Not emotional. Final. For a second, nobody responded. Even Vanessa stopped moving her phone. My father's eyes narrowed slightly. What did you say? I took one step forward, not toward him, but toward the space between all of them. I said no, I repeated. My voice didn't shake. And for the first time I wasn't asking. The room changed after that. Not physically. But something in their expressions shifted, like they finally realized I wasn't fitting into their version of me anymore. My phone screen lit up one last time. 10 a.m. Interview starting. Right now. And I stood there, still inside the house, still locked in, but no longer completely under them. Because something had already broken. Not my chances. Not my future. But their control over my decision. 10 a.m. The moment the clock turned, everything in the room felt frozen for a split second, like even time had paused to see what I would do next. My phone lit up again. Incoming call. Unknown number. My stomach dropped. That had to be them. My father noticed it too. His eyes flicked to my phone, then back to me. Don't answer it, he said immediately, sharper now. But I didn't move. Because for the first time I wasn't reacting to him. I was reacting to my life. The phone kept ringing. Once. Twice. Vanessa straightened slightly. Is that the interview? My mother's face changed a little at that word. Interview. My father stepped forward. Ariana, I said don't. I lifted my hand slightly. Not to him. To silence. And then I answered. The room didn't explode. Nothing dramatic happened. But the silence that followed was heavier than any noise I had ever heard. I brought the phone slowly to my ear. And in that moment, everything they had tried to contain was already slipping out of their control. I held the phone to my ear, my hand steady even though my chest wasn't. Hello? I said. There was a brief pause on the other end. Then a clear, professional voice came through. Good morning. Is this Ariana Cole? My throat tightened, but I answered. Yes. My father took a step closer, his jaw tense. Hang up, he said under his breath. I didn't look at him. The voice on the phone continued. This is regarding your final interview for the operations coordinator position. We were expecting you at 10 a.m. sharp. Are you able to join the video call now? Video call. My mind raced. This wasn't in person anymore. It was still happening. Right now. My mother pressed a hand lightly to her mouth, like she already knew what was unfolding. Vanessa looked between me and the phone, suddenly less bored. My father's voice sharpened again. Ariana, end the call. But I finally spoke into the phone. I'm here, I said. A short pause. Then the voice replied, calm and businesslike. Please confirm your identity and join the link sent to your email. I nodded even though they couldn't see me. Yes. I can join. And just like that, the world split in two. The room I was standing in. And the life I was still being allowed to reach. I quickly opened my email on my phone while still holding the call. My fingers weren't shaking anymore. They were focused. Behind me, I could feel my father's presence getting closer, but I didn't turn around. I tapped the link. Loading. My heart beat once, hard. Then the screen changed. A video interview room opened. A calm virtual background. A waiting recruiter. Another panel member joining in. And suddenly, I was no longer just a daughter standing in a kitchen. I was a candidate. Ariana Cole, the interviewer said. Yes, I replied immediately. Good morning. We can see you. Let's begin. My breath steadied. And then, my father's voice cut through the room. Ariana. Not loud. but sharp enough to demand everything. I didn't look away from the screen. Because I realized something important in that moment. If I turned around now, I would lose the only place I was finally being seen for who I was. The interviewer continued, unaware of the tension behind me. Let's start with your experience. My life had officially split into two realities. One asking me questions about my future. The other trying to erase it. My father stepped closer again. This time, I felt him right behind me. Ariana, turn that off, he said, lower but more controlled. Right now. I didn't move. Not even slightly. On the screen, the interviewer continued speaking, completely unaware of the storm behind me. Can you walk us through a situation where you handled pressure under strict deadlines? A question I had prepared for. A question I had earned the right to answer. My mouth opened slightly. And then my father reached for my phone. That was the moment. Not dramatic. Not loud. Just final. I pulled my hand back instantly and took a small step forward, away from him. Still facing the screen. Still in the interview. No, I said. One word. Not to the interviewer. To him. The room went silent again behind me. Even Vanessa stopped breathing for a second. My father froze, like he didn't expect resistance to feel this direct. Ariana, my mother started, but stopped midway. I didn't look back. Because I could feel it clearly now. Every time I turned toward them, I disappeared a little. But every second I stayed here. I became visible again. I focused fully on the screen now. The interviewer was waiting. Please take your time, they said calmly. I exhaled once. And I began. There was a situation where I had to manage multiple responsibilities at once under strict deadlines, I said. I was working in an environment where expectations were high, and support was limited. As I spoke, I could feel the room behind me still tense, still watching. But their presence was fading into something distant. Like noise I had finally turned down. I continued. I learned that pressure doesn't always come from workload. Sometimes it comes from environment. From lack of control over your own time and decisions. My father shifted slightly behind me. I didn't stop. And in those situations, I focused on prioritization. I separated what I could control from what I couldn't. A small pause. Then the interviewer nodded. That's a strong approach. For the first time in the entire morning, I felt something stabilize inside me. Not relief, but direction. Behind me, my mother whispered something I couldn't fully hear. Vanessa didn't speak at all. And my father was still there, but no longer fully in control of the moment. The interview continued, but something had changed in the air. It wasn't just me answering questions anymore. It was me holding my ground. Tell us about a time you made a difficult decision independently, the interviewer asked. I almost smiled at that. Difficult decisions. I had been making one since this morning without anyone's approval. I made a decision today, I said honestly. A pause on the other side of the call. My father stiffened behind me. I continued anyway. A decision to not let circumstances outside my control define whether I show up for an opportunity one earned. The interviewer leaned slightly forward. That's interesting. Can you elaborate? I nodded. I was physically prevented from leaving my home this morning. But I chose to find another way to attend this interview rather than give up on it. Silence. Even the interviewer seemed to register the weight of what I had just said. My mother gasped softly behind me. Vanessa's expression changed completely now, confusion mixed with something closer to realization. My father stepped forward sharply. That's enough. But I still didn't turn around. Because for the first time, I wasn't asking to be allowed to speak. I was already speaking. There was a brief pause on the interview call. Not confusion, processing. Then the interviewer spoke again, carefully. Are you saying you were being prevented from attending this interview? My throat tightened for a moment, but I didn't hesitate. Yes, I said. This morning, I was locked inside my home and my ability to leave was restricted. The words sounded heavier out loud. More real. Behind me, the room shifted instantly. My father's voice snapped. Ariana, stop this nonsense. But I finally turned my head slightly, not fully away from the screen, but enough to look at him. And I said it clearly. It's not nonsense. It's what happened. Silence followed. My mother looked shocked now, like she was hearing the situation for the first time through my words instead of living it. Vanessa's face had gone still, no sarcasm left, just uncertainty. The interviewer remained composed, but their tone changed. Thank you for sharing that. We take candidate circumstances seriously. My breath steadied again. Because something had just shifted. Not in the house. But in how my reality was being received outside of it. My father realized it too. And for the first time, he didn't have an immediate response. For a few seconds, nobody in the room spoke. Even my father, who always had something to say, something to decide, was silent. That silence felt different now. Not calm. Fragile. The interviewer's voice came through again, steady but firm. Thank you for explaining your situation. We will continue the interview with you as planned. Please focus on your responses. I nodded once. Yes, I said. I'm ready. And I meant it. Behind me, my father finally spoke again, but his tone had changed. Lower. Controlled. But no longer confident. You are making a mistake right now, he said. I didn't turn fully toward him. Just enough to acknowledge him. No, I replied. I'm correcting one. That hit the room harder than anything else I had said. My mother stepped forward slightly. Ariana, please, don't turn this into something bigger. Vanessa, unusually quiet now, looked between all of us like she was seeing a version of the family she never noticed before. But I faced the screen again. Because the interviewer was speaking. And can you tell us what motivates you professionally? I took a breath. And answered honestly. Being allowed to make my own decisions, and not needing permission to build my life. My voice was steady. But something inside me was finally free. And I could feel it. This interview was no longer just a test of skills. It had become a test of truth. The interviewer stayed quiet for a moment after my answer, as if weighing not just my words, but the person behind them. Then they spoke. That's a very clear statement of intent, Ariana. I nodded slightly, even though they could see it. Yes, I said. It is. Behind me, my father took another step forward. This time slower. Not commanding anymore, measuring. Ariana, he said again, but differently now. Less force, more uncertainty. Turn around. Let's talk properly. For years, that tone would have pulled me back instantly. But not today. Not now. I didn't face him fully, but I didn't ignore him either. I am talking properly, I said. For the first time. That sentence seemed to unsettle him more than anything else. My mother's voice came softly. We didn't want to hurt you. I finally turned my head just enough to look at her. I know, I said. But you still did. No anger. No shouting. Just truth. Vanessa looked down now, her expression no longer defensive. More confused. Maybe even unsettled by how clearly everything was being seen. The interviewer spoke again. We are nearing the end of this stage. Do you have any final comments or questions? I took a breath. And for the first time all morning, I didn't think about who was behind me. Only who I was becoming. Yes, I said. I do. And I paused, just long enough for everything in my life to feel like it was holding its breath with me. No shouting. Just truth. Vanessa looked down now, her expression no longer defensive. More confused. Maybe even unsettled by how clearly everything was being seen. The interviewer spoke again. We are nearing the end of this stage. Do you have any final comments or questions? I took a breath. And for the first time all morning, I didn't think about who was behind me. Only who I was becoming. Yes, I said. I do. And I paused, just long enough for everything in my life to feel like it was holding its breath with me. No shouting. Just truth. Vanessa looked down now, her expression no longer defensive. More confused. Maybe even unsettled by how clearly everything was being seen. The interviewer spoke again. We are nearing the end of this stage. Do you have any final comments or questions? I took a breath. And for the first time all morning, I didn't think about who was behind me. Only who I was becoming. Yes, I said. I do. And I paused, just long enough for everything in my life to feel like it was holding its breath with me. No shouting. Just truth. Vanessa looked down now, her expression no longer defensive. More confused. Maybe even unsettled by how clearly everything was being seen. The interviewer spoke again. We are nearing the end of this stage. Do you have any final comments or questions? I took a breath. And for the first time all morning, I didn't think about who was behind me. Only who I was becoming. Yes, I said. I do. And I paused, just long enough for everything in my life to feel like it was holding its breath with me. No one spoke immediately after I turned around. The kitchen that had felt like a cage all morning now felt unfamiliar, almost too quiet, like it didn't know what version of me to hold anymore. My father was the first to break the silence, but even his voice had lost its sharp edge. So, that's it? He asked. I didn't answer right away. Because for the first time I wasn't rushing to fill silence with obedience. My mother looked at me with something between worry and realization. Ariana, what happens now? That question used to mean what happens to them. But now it meant something else. I looked at my phone in my hand. The interview had ended. No immediate result. No instant validation. Just the echo of what I had said. I don't know yet, I replied honestly. And that was okay. Vanessa finally spoke, quieter than before. You really think this changes everything? I met her eyes. No, I said. I think it starts changing me. That was the truth I hadn't been able to say before. My father exhaled slowly, stepping back from the door he had guarded all morning. Not fully giving in. But no longer standing in the same place either. And I realized something simple but powerful. Sometimes freedom doesn't arrive like a victory. Sometimes it arrives like distance. Not from a place, but from people who never learned how to let you choose. 2 days passed after the interview. 2 days where my life didn't immediately transform, but slowly started to shift in ways I didn't expect. At first, there was only silence. No rejection email. No acceptance message. Just waiting. I went back to my room in that same house, but something had changed. I wasn't moving through it the same way anymore. I started organizing my documents again, not as someone preparing for permission, but as someone preparing for independence. On the 3rd day, my phone finally rang. Unknown number. My hand paused for a second before I answered. Hello? A familiar professional voice came through. Hello, Ariana. This is the hiring coordinator from the operations team. My heart didn't explode like I expected it to. It steadied. We've completed your final evaluation, they continued. And the panel was particularly impressed with your performance under difficult circumstances, as well as your honesty during the interview. A pause. Then the words that changed the direction of everything. We would like to offer you the position. For a moment, I just stood there. Not crying. Not reacting loudly. Just absorbing it. Then I said quietly, "Thank you. I accept." The job didn't erase what happened at home. But it created something I had never had before. A door that wasn't controlled by them. Training began online first. Meetings. Tasks. Systems I had to learn quickly. I made mistakes in the first week, but I corrected them faster than I ever had in my life. For the first time, my progress wasn't interrupted by permission, guilt, or interruption. My routine changed. I woke up earlier, not because I had to serve someone else's household, but because I was building my own stability. I started saving every bit of my salary planning quietly in a separate account. I learned to speak in meetings without second-guessing myself. And slowly, something inside me rebuilt. Confidence without apology. At home, things didn't return to normal. They couldn't. My father still spoke less about control. My mother watched me differently, as if trying to understand me instead of manage me. Vanessa avoided bringing up the past completely. But the biggest change wasn't them. It was me. One evening, my father finally said something unexpected. "You've changed." I looked at him calmly. "Yes," I replied. I had to. He didn't argue. For the first time. And I realized something important. I didn't need them to approve my life anymore. I just needed to continue building it. Sometimes freedom doesn't come as escape. Sometimes it comes as the moment you stop asking to be seen, and start becoming undeniable on your own. And that's exactly what I did 7 years ago. Thanks for listening. Please like and subscribe my channel for more videos.